Mary had a little man.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
It's Friday, you bastards.
You're here to make a significant announcement.
I've registered as an Arizona independent.
What?
I know some people might be a little bit surprised by this, but actually, I think it makes a lot of sense. You know, a growing number of Arizonans and people like me just don't feel like we fit neatly into one party's box or the other. And so, like many across the state and the nation, I've decided to leave that partisan process and really just focus on the work that I think matters to Arizona and to our country, which is solving problems and getting things done.
So, your voting record is pretty capital D Democratic. I mean, your views are generally that of a moderate centrist Democrat. How does leaving the party change how you do your job?
Well, I don't think anything will change about how I do my job. Arizonans sent me to the United States Senate to be an independent voice for our state, and I'll continue doing that. What I think is important about this decision and this move is that I'll be able to show up to work every day as an independent.
What?
And not be, stuck into one party's demands of following without thinking.
Wait, what? Wait, what? We're getting a divorce and you're not leaving? We're splitting up and you're staying in the house? How does that work? How does that happen? You know why she's doing it. I think everybody understands if you think through, what she's doing there. She doesn't want to be primaried, okay? She doesn't want to go through what would probably be the most expensive primary in the nation in Arizona. And Ruben Gallego, who is a House member currently, just like she was when she was, a radical, liberal, progressive. Wasn't she a Green Party person at first? Yeah, so now she went from Green Party to progressive Democrat to I'm a moderate centrist Democrat to, hey, I'm almost a Republican now. Only because it's old school. She's as old school a Republican as you could ever want. I mean, all she lives for is, campaign donations from giant corporations. I mean, her campaign money comes directly from big pharma and big banking, which and also hedge fund managers. This is why she was against raising taxes, which would have been included in Build Back Better, which also had things in there like child care and universal pre-K. And remember, she was the impediment to progress on that bill. Her and Joe Manchinima, or whatever they were calling, trying to benefit their names. Honestly, she's doing this because she doesn't want to be primaried by at least Ruben Gallego, who's indicated that he would like to primary her as a Democrat. Well, if she's an independent, you understand there's no primary as it stands now, right? There's no primary. And so she doesn't have to face, another Democrat and say whether or not, Arizona wants a real Democrat or whether Arizona wants a centrist Democrat or whether Arizona wants somebody who is an impediment to Arizona's progress. That's the only reason why she's doing it. But, I mean, you can't even say good riddance to her because she's not leaving. You want to say, hey, don't let the door split you, don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you, but you can't. Because she's not going anywhere. She's not going anywhere. This is a reflection of who I've always been. Well, if what you see in the mirror is a self-serving, self-centered asshat, then you win that argument. But let me tell you this right now. Arizona MAGA, okay, they don't like non-binary politicians, okay? And by that, I don't mean her orientation sexually. I mean her orientation party-wise. Arizona, she thinks she's a maverick, but she's no maverick. She's an asshole, okay? That's what she is. She's being an asshole. She's doing this for self-serving purposes. She doesn't want to face a primary challenger. She doesn't want to spend money on that. She just wants to continue to fundraise off of big pharma, big banks, people who don't want their taxes raised, billionaire hedge fund managers, etc. Right? And that's where she staked out her fundraising prowess. That's where she makes all her cash. And she knows that two things. If she stays a Democrat, number one, she's going to get primaried. And number two, if she becomes an independent, then she could still be a thorn in the side of anybody who wants universal pre-K and wants to pay for it. Anybody who wants, child care and wants to pay for it, she can still stab, the eyeballs out of the people that want that and be an impediment to progress. But this way, she doesn't have to face a challenger. And she is up for re-election in 2024. And you know how everybody said, oh, it's going to be such a difficult map. The Democrats have 24 seats to defend. And so she's already thinking about where should she be. But I'll tell you this about Arizona maggots, just like Florida maggots. They don't like a non-binary politician. Okay? With them, it's all about support for Donald Trump or for Ron DeSantis or the Don't Say Gay agenda or the banning of the books, the tamping down of the free speech. And she is not going to fit into that particular crowd's box. Why is she talking about fitting into boxes? It's just ew, but she is. Because MAGA doesn't like non-binary politics, which is what she's saying there. I'm non-binary. I could go, either way. I can object to progress as well as I can advocate for progress. Now, you understand why I'm saying she's for Big Pharma. It's pretty simple. During the Medicare prescription drug negotiations, where we wanted to say Medicare, the largest purchaser of prescription drugs, ought to be able to negotiate with Big Pharma, she was the impediment to that for 2 years. For 2 years, right? And then finally, at the end, the compromise to get her vote was to say, okay, we'll only allow Medicare to negotiate 10 drugs, just 10, and they won't be allowed to begin negotiations with Big Pharma until 2026. So she's managed to delay the profit margin being, the slightest bit disturbed by a negotiation with Medicare for, well, let's see, it's 2022, almost 23. Let's say it's 23. For 3 more years, plus the 2 years she obstructed. So she's been able to deliver for them 5 years of insane profit margins. So she's worth the $1 million that they gave her. I mean, if she were owned more by big pharmaceutical companies, she would have to have a disclaimer after her name, like might cause oily stools. If you experience swelling of the tongue and mouth, please contact, 911. It's like, may experience undue vomiting and diarrhea. Kyrsten Sinema is not for everybody, or even anybody. If you take Kyrsten Sinema before an important Senate vote, you may experience aggravation and depression, combined with intense nausea. I mean, it's just so unbelievable. But this is what she's doing. This is what she said, and nothing will change.
Let's talk about practically what this means, because you're the chair of at least 2 subcommittees. You're a member of a number of important committees, including Veterans Affairs. Does this mean that you're no longer going to be in those positions because you're no longer a Democrat and the Democrats control the Senate?
Well, I intend to maintain my position on my committees and keep doing the work that I've been doing for Arizona. So I don't think that things will change in terms of how I operate or the work that I do in the United States Senate.
Yes, do not continue to take Kyrsten Sinema if she becomes a pain in your ass. No, I'm going to take advantage of the big wins that the Democrats got in the Senate. A historic win by President Joe Biden, who has maintained his Senate majority, something that hadn't been accomplished since 1934. Oh, no, I'm going to take advantage of that, and I'm going to continue to serve on my committees, But I'm not going to vote with Democrats or anything like that. I want everybody to know my vote is for sale. I want everyone to know I'm independent of either party's platform, and you can purchase me. Unbelievable. Just so completely, amazingly gross. Here we were celebrating that we had a 51-49 Senate, and she's, leaving the Democratic Party to become non-binary.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, The Randi Rhodes Show.
All day, every day. All right, listen to me, everybody. This is the last day. The last day. This is why I'm doing an extra added, attraction, another, an extra pitch here. Because today's the last day for the Free Speech TV Pledge Drive. And the money goes to pay not just the employees, but it goes to pay the rent, it goes to pay the electricity, it goes to pay all the ancillary bills that are associated with running an office. But mostly it goes to paying 16 fabulous people who work out in Denver, Colorado to support everything that we are doing across the country, because we're all over the place. And so we feed the shows to them, and they make it translatable and available to places like Apple TV. They make it available to Direct. Channel 348, if you turn on DirecTV Channel 348, you'll see me right now because they've done their job today. Dish Network 9415, Roku, sticks, all that stuff. The reason why there's a Free Speech TV channel on those particular platforms is because of the people in Denver who do their work every single day. And it's amazing to me that if you had those skills, if you had TV skills like that, you could go work for a network and make real serious money. And they just absolutely positively do what they do because they believe in the mission, which is independent media. And they come every single day with, high hopes that you will continue to support this effort that has been going on for about 25 years now. Now, today is a triple impact day. Every single day through this 2-week pledge drive has been, a double day, meaning if you did $1, there were people that would make your dollar $2. Well, today is a triple impact day because we have frontline funders, Brenda in Texas. Hi, Brenda. Thank you. And Andrew in San Diego. Thanks, Andrew. And they are going to add another $10,000 to the match total. So anything you do up to $60,000 today would be matched, up to that amount. Then when we make the goal, which is always the same, it's about $250,000 that we try and raise every quarter, because that isn't even the cost of doing business, but it's enough to get people paid, right? So then we have a frontline funder who is shy and doesn't want any accolades, who will also contribute an additional $10,000 if we make the $250, if we make the goal. So today is a triple impact day plus an added bonus at the end of 10 grand. Please do call us at 877-378-8669 or text FSTV to 44321. The number 44321, the letters FSTV. We'll send you a link. It's secure. You can use it and make your donation that way. Or freespeech.org, not for profit. So we're an org, not a com, right? Freespeech.org. Thank you. All right, Adam in LA.
Hi, Randi.
Hey.
Happy Friday, you Bastids.
Hey.
Just allow me to butter up the host for a second. You're my all-time favorite political commentator. I've been with you since the Air America days, and you taught me the importance of not just voting in presidential elections, but midterms, special elections. You taught me about oligarchy. You taught me about the importance of dark money, and I just wanted to get that.
Ooh, well, butter my ass. I'm on a roll here with you. Go ahead.
In terms of Brittney Griner, I know you're talking about
Kyrsten
Sinema. You're dead on about
It's
that.
Friday. You can talk about whatever you like today. I don't care.
Right on. Brittney Griner. So, why was she in Russia playing basketball? Because she was making a lot more money in Russia to play basketball. In an white ethno-fascist state, she had to go there to play basketball to make way more money than she does here. And you talk about the right, talking about fairness in women's sports. Yeah, right.
They're so concerned about it. Isn't that interesting?
Fairness and since when did they care about fairness in women's sports? I know. So it's just ridiculous. It's just a ridiculous, no faith argument from them on that. And anyone who's saying, Victor Boot was an arms dealer, you let him go. It's like any Republican saying that. They're just jealous that their friends at Raytheon weren't making the profits that Victor Boot was,
Well, look, here's the thing.
There's
nothing that Biden will do that will make them, not criticize or not hate him or not trash him. And whoever has to get hurt along the way, in this case, it's a woman who was, wrongfully detained in a freaking Russian penal colony, okay, in the middle of the gulag there. And I swear to God, Carrie Lake, and this ties right back to what we were talking about, which is Kyrsten Sinema. Carrie Lake actually said that from the warmth and comfort of her own home in Arizona, said that Griner should not have left Russia. She should have stayed there and advocated for Whelan's release, right? She should have stayed there. I mean, the amount of hatred that's been thrown at her, and it's obviously because she's gay. She's she's a 6'9" women's basketball player. They don't give a damn about women's sports. In fact, they don't like women's sports, which is why women's sports doesn't have pay parity with men's sports, right?
Exactly. That's what I was getting at.
Right. They don't. They just don't. And also, the WNBA, the Women's Basketball League, only plays 40 games a year. The NBA plays twice that amount, right? So there's no opportunity for them to actually get the kind of cash that they would need because their schedule is truncated, because that's the number of fans that are out there for women's basketball. The other thing is that the league, the WNBA, doesn't go out there and get corporate endorsements and sponsorships in the same way that the NBA does, right? And you would think that Brittney Griner now coming back would be something every American would cheer and want to go see and could, raise ticket prices a little bit to get them a little extra money or, make the season a little longer, whatever, because now there's fans to support. But that's what the right wing is trashing. They're trashing that opportunity.
Yeah. And if I can recommend you something to watch, because I know the holidays are coming up, you're going to get some time off, and I highly recommend a series on Showtime called George and Tammy, about George Jones and Tammy Wynette, about their relationship. And it's like, I highly recommend it. I think you'll enjoy it. It's the best thing like that since the Johnny Cash movie. The best, their performances are incredible. So,
okay, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm always looking for something to watch because I just finished the last season of The Crown, and I loved all the seasons of The Crown except this one. Really sucked. I'm pissed.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's so bad.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow, Sunday night is the last White Lotus, and then I'm done. I'm out. I'm out of TV. I have nothing. So George and Tammy, it is.
I got to be honest. I've been disappointed in this season of White Lotus. I said it.
What?
It's not as good as the first season,
You're
Randy.
Insane.
Every episode I'm left thinking, I don't care.
You're insane. I am so in it. I am so. Do you know who got murdered? It's the whole thing is a murder mystery this year. It's insanely good, and there's porn. Lots of porn. Really, you're not like all about Jennifer Coolidge's performance. You're not about that.
Fell flat.
You're nuts, man. We're getting divorced. It's over, Brett. Move out.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randy, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Okay, keep dialing, everybody. Keep dialing. 877-378-8669 and make a donation today because you have a triple impact on the last day of the Free Speech TV Winter Christmas Pledge Drive so that we can pay our people at Christmas time. Thank you very much. Rich in Denver.
Randy, my queen, awesome show as always. And I'm going to make another donation because I didn't know you guys had a triple donation for free speech.
Well, thank you. That's exactly what I'm looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. I was telling your wonderful producer, screener, Brett, we were talking about...
We're getting divorced, me and him. We don't see eye to eye on the Jennifer Coolidge.
I said, Brett's going to he's going to have to register as an independent now,
Yeah.
About Mansion Cinema, Brett and I were talking, and he said you guys were talking over the break. So theoretically, Ruben Gallego could basically kick her can in 2 years, right, and knock her out.
Well, no, he won't compete against her. Here's what's going to happen. So Ruben Gallego, if he announces that he's running as a Democrat, has to go through a Democratic primary in Arizona now because, there'll be other people that will want to be the Democratic nominee because there isn't one. Sinema has left the party. Bye-bye, right? And she's an independent, so she's not going to be in the Democratic primary. She won't be on that ballot. So whoever wants to throw their hat in the ring for the Democrats, and I'm guessing that one of the people that was showing interest in it, even when he had to compete against Sinema, was Ruben Gallego, right? So his name is going to be on the ballot in 2024 as a senatorial candidate for the Democratic, Party. Now, I'm sure because the field is so clear that somebody else will run as a Democrat too. So there'll be that. But if Gallego, let's say, prevails and he becomes the Democratic nominee for Arizona Senate, he then has to run on a ballot that's going to have himself as a Democrat. It's going to have, I'm guessing, Kari Lake, Senator Kari Lake. How's that sound to you? Right, as the Republican nominee. And then Sinema in the middle picking votes off from, Ruben Gallego, obviously. Because, like I said, MAGA is not into non-binary politics.
Right. They want nothing to do with their...
So she's a spoiler already, and all because she doesn't want to, face the challenger. She doesn't want to be...
about money.
Yes. And 90%, just so you know, and the same is true of Manchin, 90% of the money that Sinema gets comes from out of state. So this idea that she's all about Arizona, the most, breathless place on the planet, and she just wants to work so hard for Arizona, 90% of her money comes from outside the state. Right? And Manchin, too. 90% of his money comes from outside of West Virginia. His is energy, oil, and gas, and a little bit of coal, And hers is all big pharma, big banks, and hedge fund managers.
I didn't know until you said that and she's going to be grifting for another 5 years because
right.
I didn't know that it's only 10 pharmaceuticals and it doesn't kick in until it's
right. I mean, if she wants to, right? BS. That's right. That's exactly right. It doesn't kick in until 2026. That's a dirty little secret that hardly anybody wants to tell you, but it's true, and it's because of her that it doesn't kick in until 2026. The Democrats wanted this to kick in earlier, and they wanted more drugs on the starting list for negotiation, and she limited the list to 10 drugs and said it won't start. The negotiations won't be able to start with Big Pharma until 2026. Okay, that's what she got for them. 5 years, 6 years of the insane, obscene profit margins. So if she wanted to run for like senator from AstraZeneca, yes, she wins.
Yeah.
But not as senator from Arizona.
Right. It all goes back to Randy. We've talked about it a million times. How just the toxic, dark BS
money. It's money
that has just wrecked this country.
Right.
It's absolutely.
And now the money is at the Supreme Court. Yesterday, did you see any of those hearings yesterday?
I listened to it on C-SPAN. You're right about C-SPAN. It's political crack.
It is. It's so addictive.
It's absolutely the best. I listened to
for anybody
oral argument.
Yes, for anybody, it wasn't an oral argument. I mean, for anybody who's out of television, okay, this weekend, there is a hearing that happened yesterday in the House at the Judiciary Committee, okay? Nadler was the chair. And it was all about this whistleblower, basically, a reverend who put together a group of lobbyists, seriously, and he named the thing that he was doing Operation Higher Court, which sounds like they're getting stoned or something, but no, it was about money. And him and his missionaries, this is what he called them, stealth missionaries, lobbied the Supreme Court for the last 20 years in order to encircle all the conservative justices and let them know that God was on their side, that what they were doing was the right thing to do by God. And they would have these dinners and hunting trips to, crazy Africa places, and they don't have any ethics codes that they have to live by. There's no legislation to hold them accountable for taking gifts or taking money or taking things in kind. They don't have to report jack crap. And he finally had this moment in his life where he realized what he was doing was immoral. So he started talking to the newspapers. He started talking to the New York Times. He talked to Rolling Stone. He talked to Politico. He talked to a whole bunch of reporters. And so yesterday, the Democrats, while they still have control of the House, the Judiciary Committee subpoenaed him. His name's Reverend Schenck. And he went and testified. And he told them the truth about what goes on at the Supreme Court. And he said it's all about money, and they're all open to it, and they take it, and they're just thrilled with the idea that they can, And he said, that remember when the right wing was so concerned about the leak from the Supreme Court about the Dobbs decision? He said that Alito is the leaker and that he knew about the decision. And he also knew about the Hobby Lobby decision back in 2014 ahead of time because Alito was telling him. So it's all about money, even the Supremes.
Yeah, and there's the two. There's the two that would be down for getting rid of election, Thomas and Alito.
Yes.
I'll tell you this, Randy, and you have a wonderful weekend. That interview with Jesse the Body Ventura, I'm like Brett. I'd vote for you. That it's just insane how he spent $300,000 to become governor over a state that had a $16 billion budget, and they charged him for everything.
Everything.
And we just had the Georgia election with the runoff for $1.4 billion. It's absolutely destroying this country.
I know.
And it's sickening, and it's
It's vile. It is. It's unacceptable, actually. If everybody would just put their foot down and get together on just one thing, just one issue, it wouldn't be a social issue, okay? It wouldn't be a culture war issue. It wouldn't be about gay or straight or marriage or abortion or black versus white or CRT or any of these stupid non-issues, all these problems we don't have, right? It would be about the amount of money allowed in our politics, in our courts, in our Senate, in our House, in the presidential, all of it, bought and paid for. And we will pay and pay and pay and pay until we say no more.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show.
It is.
To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
This should have been news heard around the world. I mean, this should be on the CNN, on the MSNBC, on the Fox. This should be everywhere all the time now. This is a major, major, disgraceful, disgusting story about our Supreme Court. All right? I'm going to play you a little report, and then I'm going to play you the testimony from that hearing yesterday. It's sickening.
Back in November, the New York Times reported that several anti-choice activists had embarked on a sophisticated and targeted influence campaign with the goal of, quote, emboldening the justices to lay the legal groundwork for the reversal of Roe versus Wade. One of their top targets was Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito. The campaign was orchestrated by Reverend Rob Schneck, a former anti-abortion faith leader. He claims that his campaign bore fruit. He told the New York Times that Alito leaked the verdict of the 2014 Burwell versus Hobby Lobby case to religious activists. The case allowed privately held companies to object on religious grounds to a provision of the Obamacare law that requires employers to provide health insurance that includes contraception coverage.
Jesus.
Reverend Schneck, who has recanted his anti-abortion views, said he was told of the outcome weeks before it was announced. Alito denied those allegations. Today, before the House Judiciary Committee, he laid out his extensive influence campaign, which included inviting some of the justices to meals, various vacation homes, and private clubs.
Oh, good God.
The justices obliged.
Operation Higher Court involved my recruitment of wealthy donors as stealth missionaries who befriended justices that shared our conservative social and religious sensibilities. Our overarching goals were to gain insights into the conservative justices' thinking and to shore up their resolve to render solid, unapologetic opinions, particularly against abortion. We were never admonished for the type of work our missionaries did. Quite to the contrary. In one instance, Justice Thomas commended me, saying something like, keep up what you're doing. It's making a difference.
Oh, good God. So in order to take away rights that women have relied on for the last 50 years, a half a century, the missionaries, the stealth missionaries, lobbyists, they were lobbyists for their ideas about our rights. And they were encircling the United States Supreme Court, buying them dinners, making contributions to their historical societies, attending dinners at like the Federalist Society, and making them believe that they were on God's side and that God wanted women to have no rights. Swear. So this is parts of his testimony yesterday, right?
We also were concerned that some of them had assured in their testimony during confirmation hearing that Roe v. Wade was settled law, and that maybe, just maybe, other forces could work to intimidate them from coming after Roe. And so we wanted to create a circle of people around them that would encourage them, applaud them, literally thank God for them and assure them of prayerful support, and by being present, indicate to them that there were many, many Americans who were behind them and hoped that they would render strong, unapologetic, unequivocal opinions that would support the positions important to us.
Which was to take women's rights away from them. Prayerful. We were literally there to encircle them and pray for them and tell them that they were on the side of God and that there were many, many, many Americans who believed that women should be stripped of their rights and they were on the right side and that the American people would I mean, this is really sick. He actually just testifies there that, you know, we saw them testify that Roe was settled law. We saw them testify that it was precedent on precedent and that the law could not be disturbed and that rights for women were settled law. You shouldn't rip out from underneath, half of the population a civil liberty that they have relied on for a half century. But we encircled them. And so one of the questions that Reverend Robin Schenck, difficult to say, Schenck, okay? One of the things he testified to was they asked him, well, how did you get access to the court? And he tells you, in 1999, I bought a building across the street from the United States Supreme Court. Yeah.
We also were concerned that...
Oh, sorry, it's the wrong one. Here, this one.
In 1999, my organization acquired a piece of property across the street from the Supreme Court, which we thought would give us advantage in accessing the court, and it did. And at that time, I discovered the existence of the Supreme Court Historical Society, and in particular that it sponsored an annual dinner inside the court hosted by the Chief Justice, often attended by most of the other associate justices, and that one could join this society and enjoy access to those events, which I did. I joined the society, and it became an entry point for our work.
And you actually had donors to raise money for the Supreme Court Historical Society. Is that correct?
Yes, I encouraged our people to contribute generously.
Do you have any idea how much money you were able to raise for the Supreme Court Historical Society and what that money may have been used for?
I never actually added it up, but it was considerable. It was certainly...
Over $1 million?
It could have been.
$1 million. $1 million. Bought a building across the street from the United States Supreme Court, realized that inside the court, they had this thing called the Historical Society, the Supreme Court Historical Society, and anybody could join for a price. And so I paid the price, and I joined, and now I had access to the justices. I had access. And I would contribute to their historical society, and I would get others to contribute to their historical society, and I got access to the justices, is what I did. Everything is for sale in this country, and that does not produce good government. That does not produce an extension of rights. It produces a contraction of rights. It produces a contraction of voting rights, a contraction of judicial review when you're wronged or when you have grievances. It produces a retraction, a shrinking of women's rights, of gay rights, of marriage rights. I mean, this is why Clarence said, hey, bring me everything now. I understand I'm part of an interracial marriage, but you know what? It's not the best thing for everybody. Only I can handle it. So I'd like to outlaw it. Yeah, you can't handle it. You can't handle it. And this does go back to that marriage, okay? The idea that Ginny Thomas was literally expressing support for John Eastman, the lawyer's independent legislature theory during the election, during the cycle after the votes were counted and it became clear that Donald Trump lost. Eastman was saying, hey, the state legislatures can choose the electors. They can nullify the results of the actual vote because in the Constitution it says that the state legislators choose the manner in which the elections are conducted. And so if that was the independent state legislature theory, and Ginny Thomas was all about it, right? She was writing memos. She was in touch with John Eastman, back and forth, right? She's not an independent operator. You understand she runs an organization. And we don't know who her clients are. But somebody pays her to lobby her husband, obviously. And it works. Why? Because Clarence didn't recuse himself the other day on the independent legislature theory case. Moore v. Harper. He didn't recuse himself because there was an appearance of a conflict of interest, let alone a real conflict. No, he said to Neil Katyal, who was our former Solicitor General for the United States, used to argue on behalf of the U.S., but now he represents Harper, right? Now he represents, the organizations that would like to see people be able to continue to vote. And Clarence Thomas said, I waited 30 years to ask you a question. I mean, he was all about it. He loved it. He was in there. Even though he is so conflicted because his wife lobbied him to give credence to John Eastman's theory that a legislature can pick the state's electors, not the voters. It's so broken. And that's why the approval rating for the Supreme Court is somewhere around congressional approval rating. Everybody understands intellectually that there is a swamp. And it is money, and it's moneyed interest, and billionaires, and banks, and big pharma. The problem we have is every time we get to talk to the other side about our shared problem, they throw in a social issue.
Mary had a little man. We believe that all men are created equal.
The magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe it.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
How dangerous is it to think that our Supreme Court is completely compromised after today's testimony? Is it even a legitimate branch of the government anymore if even 80% of what we heard today in testimony is the standard operating procedures for many justices?
Yeah, I mean, what we heard today was really shocking. This was a very sophisticated and well-financed campaign to influence the court to become more conservative, to fortify their extreme positions. It was really shocking to hear the testimony. And look, it's one of the reasons why we have to pass legislation that will, in fact, enact a code of ethics or direct the court to enact a code of ethics, make clear their recusal requirements, and make sure that we have disclosure for any gifts or other things that the court justices receive. Every other federal judge, every member of Congress is required to go through a lot of disclosures that are governed by a code of ethics. It's only the Supreme Court of the United States that is exempt from that. That simply can't stand. And as a result, we're seeing the court at kind of its lowest it's ever been in terms of public confidence. The court relies on the confidence of the American people to do its work. So this is something we have to address. The court should want to address it. But what we heard today I think shows why this is urgent and why we have to insist that the Supreme Court of the United States operate under some well-established rules of conduct, ethics, and be held accountable if they violate those rules.
So, okay, that's David Cicilline, who is a Democrat from Rhode Island. Okay, telling you that this is dangerous. This is unbelievable that there is so much money in every single nook and cranny of the United States government, that it is a swamp, and that Donald Trump understood the swamp because Donald Trump used the swamp, manipulated the swamp for his own benefit, and had no intention of draining it. In fact, he wanted to corrupt it even further. He wanted to use his position as president of the United States to pack that court with people who would use things like the independent legislature theory to do away with the voting, because people are just so stupid. People in America are just there's such an impediment to the billionaires, to the hedge fund managers, to the giant corporations, to the pass-through companies, to everything that they've set up for themselves to stick their beaks in and to just extract every single nickel, every dime, everything of value that the United States has, from rare minerals all the way to the tax code. And they think that you and me, and I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat or an independent at this point, or Green Party, it doesn't matter. They think we're all so dumb. They think we're all such an inconvenience. This voting thing, well, that's got to stop. But as long as it goes on, they will spend $1.4 billion in the state of Georgia to gain a governorship and a Senate seat. $1.4 billion. And you have to say to yourself, my God, what are they getting out of it that would be worth that kind of money? Obviously, everything is the answer. Everything. The inability for Medicare to negotiate with Big Pharma the price of prescription drugs. Senators who say, all right, in the end, we have to pass something. So here's what I've been paid to say to you, the other senators. Since we have a 50-50 Senate, and you're going to do this through reconciliation, and my vote actually matters to your success, but translate your success to the people of the United States' success, because that's what it is. Okay? I can sign on to, I have permission from my handlers, from my donors, from my, pharmaceutical, masters. I have permission to say, if you don't start negotiating until 2026, and you only are able to negotiate 10 drugs, like maybe insulin, some other, generic things, then I can sign on. They said I'm free to do it. I mean, this is where we're at. Now you got the Supreme Court, and you have whistleblowers who were lobbying the Supreme Court in order to overturn Roe v. Wade, in order to get the independent legislature theory in front of the Supreme Court, in order to change everything about freedom in this country and how we rely on it. The individuals are giving $1 million to the Historical Society, the Supreme Court Historical Society, or money to the Federalist Society, or money to the Heritage Foundation, or money to this one or that one. I mean, all of it, and it's all against us, every single one of us. The problem we have is that every time we get together as a citizenry, and I mean a united front against the swamp, against the money, they throw in a culture issue to distract you. It's the small, shiny object that all of a sudden you're supposed to be aggrieved about that, and not aggrieved about the fact that money is trumping our tranquility. Money is trumping our ability to have an effective government that acts on our behalf. It was the impediment to getting childcare out the door for working people. It's the impediment to getting health care for every single person in this country, so that it's not a fringe benefit that allows for an employer to say, well, I'm providing you with health care, so therefore I don't have to pay you as much. It's a ridiculous thing that we've allowed our pension funds to not exist, that we've allowed health care to be, for profit, that we've allowed, no child care, no pre-K in this country. I mean, it's all a ruse. Every single thing that everyone would agree on gets destroyed by immigration, anti-immigrant sentiment. Blame them for the fact that you have no child care? Really? Blame them for the fact that you're paying for private health insurance even though you work for a living? Even though you pay taxes? It's ridiculous how manipulated we are, and that's what the money's for. The money is to manipulate you. The money is to distract you. The money is to put crime on the TV in the midst of an election, something that you don't see any Republican incensed about crime now, do you? No. None of the agenda for next year includes any crime bills. None of the agenda for next year with the Republican Congress includes anything on, background checks or mental health care or, anything at all to do with immigration reform. We're trying right now in the lame duck, while Democrats still have the ability to introduce legislation, still have the majority of the committees, still are able to, put legislation on the floor in the House. We're trying to do comprehensive immigration reform. We're saying to the Republicans, we are down with you on funding the border to the tune of many, 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 multiple millions more to speed up asylum claims, to hire more judges down on the border to adjudicate asylum claims. And that if people are not qualified to even, make an asylum claim, we will ramp up the removal procedures. We will fund that. In exchange, all we want is for the dreamers to have a path to citizenship. That is a fair deal. That is an important deal. That is a deal that would go a long way to solving a lot of the problems we have at the border, the buildup of people waiting to make asylum claims, the lack of judges to hear these cases, and the lack of removal officers. I mean, it would go a long way. They're not interested in solving the problem at the border. They're interested in using the border to make you angry. Well, that isn't going to solve anything for anybody ever. And that's what the money pays for. That's what the money does. That's what goes on TV. Those are those ads. That's what the money is spent on. People give money all the time and they never ask, where does the money go? Where does the money go? So, for instance, when I do the pledge drive, and I'm doing it now, and I tell you today's a triple impact day, and I'm telling you I got 2 people that are willing to put 10 grand on top of the 50 grand to match your donations. And then I got another person who will give an extra 10 grand at the end if I make my goal today, and I could do, you right? And I tell you, the money is going to pay people. It's going to pay 16 people in Denver. Well, why don't the Senate and the House members tell you where your money goes when you talk? I'll tell you where your money goes. It goes on television. It goes on radio. It goes into media companies, which is why they're conservative. They're making money.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
So what do? I think what we do is we focus on the people who are outside the justices' chambers, who are exerting improper influence. Perhaps justices' friends, families, others should be under an obligation to report all of their outside sources of income and influence. The Reverend who testified before the House Judiciary Committee just this morning and who said basically, under oath, Clarence Thomas told me that our lobbying was really paying off, having an influence. Well, that just means that anyone who meets with a justice should be under an obligation enforceable by criminal law, at least to report every such meeting. So those who wine and dine Justice Alito or Justice Thomas in the increasingly exposed miasma that surrounds the court, they're the ones that we could enforce the law against. I haven't tried to work up a statute, but that's where I think Congress has to focus its attention, not just, passing yet another ethics code, which can be ignored by a justice who, like Thomas, would simply thumb his nose at it.
Right, and this is where the money actually, goes. It goes to destroy our civil liberties, our freedom, our rights, and all these conservatives that are screaming about liberty and freedom, and they're so full of crap. They're so full of garbage. They obviously aren't paying any attention to how much money is infecting every single institution in American, jurisprudence, in American, in the Senate, in state legislatures, in state houses, assemblies, in the federal, House of Representatives, in the presidency. I mean, we're talking about. I remember when it was like $1 billion to run for president. $1 billion. Now it's $1 billion to become a governor of a state. $1 billion for a Senate race. This is astronomical. This is bizarre. It has absolutely no relationship to we the people. It has everything to do with, the dollars. If you took the money out, let's just do it this way, okay? If you took the money out, the motivation for House members, for the Senate, for the president would be completely different. It wouldn't be about chasing the dollars. It would be about doing things that people want done. It would be about legislating more freedom. It would be about legislating more childcare, more tax credits to get kids out of poverty, more pre-K, more negotiation, not less negotiation with massive corporations. It would be about collective bargaining. Collective bargaining would be, something that every American would benefit from. Having a seat at the table instead of being on the menu constantly. Everyone understands this. But the Republicans are better at manipulating people's, aggravation or people's anger or people's resentment or people's fears or whatever. Always the negative, basest, lowest common denominator. That's what Republicans play to so that they can continue this gravy train of swamp-like behavior. I will say Democrats are on the take too. Kyrsten Sinema today saying, I'm going to leave the Democratic Party, I'm going to become an independent, is simply because she doesn't want to spend the kind of money that would be necessary to spend if she was going to face a primary challenger. And so by declaring herself an independent, she's no longer involved in a Democratic primary. She no longer has to face a challenger in a Democratic primary. And if there's an independent that challenges her, that person will not have, as much money as somebody who is, a Democrat in good standing, because you got the DNC, you got the the SCCC, the Senate, committee that raises money. You got all this cash, right? That goes, into a race. Independents don't have that kind of organization. They don't have that kind of fundraising prowess. They like Bernie. Bernie's an independent, right? He caucuses with the Democrats. She says she will too, which means we don't lose our majority. And she won't say she's not going to caucus with the Democrats because she's going to love being in the majority as a person who caucuses with the Democrats, even though she's an independent, right? She's going to get all the benefits of all of our hard work, and everybody who stood in line in Georgia more than once, more than twice. She gets the benefit of that, but she doesn't have to be a Democrat on the ballot running against another Democrat. And it's all because she doesn't want the money. She doesn't want to spend the money. It's not that she doesn't want to take the money. She doesn't want to spend the money on an election. So it's such a broken system, and we all understand it. And now it's in the Supreme Court, like when Sheldon Whitehouse, and he wrote a book about this called The Scheme. When Sheldon Whitehouse used his time, instead of questioning the liar, Amy Coney Barrett, who said that, Roe v. Wade was settled law, but that if it came up, she would hear it, blah, blah, blah. And Alito and Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, it's precedent on precedent. It's settled law for 50 years, Senator. I would not, I wouldn't overturn precedent. I believe in stare decisis. They were lying. And that's what this whistleblower testified to, that these lobbyists who now lobby the Supreme Court, they knew that they were lying. They sort of watched the testimony and they said, okay, so they all lied under oath and they said that it's precedent. Roe v. Wade is precedent on precedent, and it's, Roe and then Casey after it and blah, blah, blah. And but maybe, just maybe we could pay them. Maybe we could encircle them with trips and dinners and, praise, prayerful praise, and let them know that they're on God's side. They're on the right side of God, and whatever. And it worked. It freaking worked. And now he's having second thoughts about what he did. Why? Because he said he feels like what he did was immoral. He says that he now has had a moment in time where he doesn't agree with his own lobby shop. He doesn't agree with the religious right on abortion rights. He doesn't agree that taking away a non-religious woman's right to choose is really what religious people set out to do. Or maybe it's just that he sees that it's a very, virulent strain of Catholicism that has absolutely nothing to do with his brand of religion. I don't know. But he says he disagrees with them now on gun rights. He disagrees with them now on abortion rights. And he wants everybody to understand that the Supreme Court of the United States of America is a giant target for lobbyists. A giant, giant target. And that they use tactics like donations to the Supreme Court Historical Society to meet the justices and to parlay their relationships to achieve their religious objectives. And yes, just like Sheldon told you, they write amicus briefs, friends of the court briefs, giving them something to hang their hat on, giving them something to, point to and say, but many people believe that, ... And it's disgusting.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
All right, everybody. This is it. It's the last day of the Free Speech TV Winter Pledge Drive. It is the last time I will ask you, maybe, to donate, because today is a triple impact day. What does that mean? That means that not only are we going to match whatever you can donate so that we can get our people paid, people who work in Denver, Colorado, people who distribute the shows for us, people who get the show to DirecTV, people who get the show to Apple TV, people who get the show to Dish Network, people who get the show to the Roku stick, all that, okay? That's what the money is for, that rent, electricity, standard stuff. Okay. But we have two people, Brenda in Texas and Andrew in San Diego, who are going to add another 10 grand to the 50,000 that will be matched today should you donate up to $50,000. So now it's up to $60,000. And then there is a donor who will actually add $10,000 if I make the goal today, if I reach my goal today, okay? And usually it's $250,000 that we're trying to raise. So please do it today. Do it today. Dial 877-378-8669. You can talk to one of the people that you're paying in Denver. You can thank them for their hard work. You could tell them that you made a donation today in order that they have a nice Christmas and get their paychecks. You can donate online at freespeech.org, freespeech.org, or you can use your phone and just text 44321. And then put in the letters FSTV, Free Speech TV, and we'll send you a link. It's secure, it's safe, it's great, and you can make the donation that way. So listen, thank you very much. I have no doubt that we will make our goal today. I have no doubt. So I'll be taking that 10 grand off of that donor's hands in no time, okay? But thanks for your help. I really, really appreciate it. All right, Brother David.
What you just said,
right.
It's so easy to do it by text. I've done it, and yeah, it's the best.
Yeah.
Wow, what a week, sister.
Unreal.
The highs were obviously Senator Reverend Warnock and Brittney Griner. The lows were yesterday's Judiciary Committee because of what it said.
Did you watch? Did you see any of them?
I watched some of it on the live YouTube feed at work.
Yeah, that's where I watched it too, because I was on the air. I went home. I watched it on YouTube. It's 3 hours, but oh my God, your hair will go on fire. I mean, it really will.
Yes. And that the fact that is just one aspect of this mountain that we face, but it's an aspect that's been there for a long time.
It's getting worse, though, David. It's getting worse.
It really is. It's
now it's in the Supreme Court. Now there's no, I don't think people.
And we know where that's likely to go.
So I don't think people understand or appreciate this fact, and this is a fact. All federal judges all judges have ethics codes, and they have things that conflict them out of hearing. The Supreme Court has none of that. None of it.
We, in effect, have, I'll say 1.5, because we still technically have a Democratic majority. 1.5 of the 3 branches of government are corrupted. They're just, to their bone corrupted. And that's frightening.
It is. And it's unacceptable for a country as amazing as ours, as spoiled, rotten with freedom as we, tend to think it will just go on forever without anybody, noticing that it's not going to go on forever because it's being purchased out from under you. I mean, for the last 20 years, we've seen the amount of money to the point where we started to tell each other, hey, these House members, these senators, they need to wear, racing clothes. They need to have Pennzoil, whoever, AstraZeneca and Bristol Myers Squibb patches on their suits, right?
Exactly.
So sad.
Then on to that second thing I said, as for Kyrsten Sinema, there are still 23 other seats, but I say the thing that we have to put on that one is as much heat as possible and as the laser focus whenever she goes that direction, and call it out however we can.
Well,
because you're absolutely right. Happen. She needs a disclaimer.
She does need a disclaimer. And what's really, really creepy, what's really, really predictable, let's say, is Senator Carrie Lake.
Carrie Flake.
Yeah.
That's a horrifying thought.
It is. It is, but she's going to split the Democratic vote.
Yeah, I know. Long game, sister. And we've just started. Third, as I said to the chat room, hi chat room, and since your first caller brought this up, I'm going to pick it up. When you have time to watch stuff, the SAG screeners keep coming in. You need to see She Said with Zoe Kazan and Carrie Mulligan about the 2 New York Times reporters who brought down
yeah.
It's really good. Yeah. And you also, if you have access, I don't want to say the streaming services because it's like a plug. Good luck to you, Leo Grand, with Emma Thompson and the guy from Peaky Blinders about the 60-year-old widow who hires a sex worker.
What?
Yeah. Good luck to you, Leo Grand, and Emma Thompson plays a 60-year-old widow who hires a sex worker.
Oh, and Peaky Blinders. You know who likes that? Jimmy. The guy I was married to.
Right.
He loves that show. He freaking loves Peaky Blinders. He loves that freaking show.
Well, Dylan McCormick from Peaky Blinders is the sex worker, and it's not about what you think it's going to be about when you hear what it's about. It's really good. And then the third one that literally made me think of you while I was watching it with tears in my eyes is Causeway with Jennifer Lawrence and Brian Tyree Henry, about the returning Iraq vet who runs into a mechanic, and they're both damaged, and it's not cliched at all. It's a truthful picture of what the race is and the
There's a
veterans.
Lot there, just a lot there, yeah.
There's a lot to unpack in 90 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then for TV,
yes,
I'm digging on Netflix. Oh, I said the name of the streaming service. Wednesday, Tim Burton's series about the teenage Wednesday Addams.
Yeah,
it's kind of a hoot and a half.
So good.
She is a really good Wednesday, I have to say.
Yeah, it's not since Christina Ricci. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and Christina Ricci playing like the headmaster at the school is just
at Nevermore.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
David, for me, it's the art design, the photography, the art design, the set design. It is so Tim Burton. It's wonderfully Tim Burton.
And then I'm living for season 2 of Somebody Somewhere, but I have to wait till next year for that.
Oh, a lot of people are liking that.
No, it's so good. Well, you're the one that turned me onto it. I say this like a mantra, but it's true. There are still more of us, but that more of us has to recognize that this was. It's the dominoes are just going to keep falling.
What people have to realize.
New ones up.
What people have to realize is that they really do find the fact that there are more of us very inconvenient. And that is why they heard the independent state legislature theory, where Clarence Thomas is so compromised and so conflicted and refused to even acknowledge that or recuse himself, which really would have been the right thing to do. They really want to take away our access to the ballot. And I'm not just talking about your ordinary standard Southern voter suppression techniques where they put one drop box in the state of Texas. I'm talking about saying no need to show up. No need. We got this. You elected us as your legislators in this state, and so we know that you trust us to pick the president. That's where it's headed. That's where they're going with this. Why? Because they understand the people are coming. They see us.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Okay, watch this.
I'll tell you my priority. Protect religious liberty, protect people of faith, and protect Americans who believe in the true meaning of marriage. I hope and pray that my colleagues will find the courage to join me in opposing this misguided and this dangerous bill. I yield back.
Congresswoman Vicky Hartzler from Missouri, whose son is gay, by the way, and attended Oral Roberts University, where he says he was not free to be himself. And is now suing the school, okay, saying that they discriminate against gay people. It's like poison going there. Anyway, he was a psych major, psychology, and he wrote his thesis on the religious beating up of gay people. Anyway, that's Vicky Hartzler's son, and she's on the floor crying. Gay marriage. Oh my God. I'm a no, because the sanctity of marriage, the sanctity of marriage is what makes America America. Almost every single person in this audience has been divorced. So much for the sanctity of marriage. You freaking front-running phony, you. The sanctity of marriage. It's just so bizarre. They are so crazy. But, they say it that way. And everyone goes, yeah. It's between one man and one woman until they get divorced, and then it's between that same man and another woman until they get divorced, and then wife number 3, 3 women and 1 man. That's marriage. That's the American way. Bite me with this sanctity. Gina in Tennessee.
Oh, Randi?
Yes.
Hey.
Yes,
I have one comment. Do not divorce Brett. He's awesome. Seriously, I asked him about the Harriet Truman $20 bill, and he told me 2030. Why, I do not know.
Tubman. Harriet Tubman? Not Truman.
Yeah, Tubman. Thank you very much for correcting me.
Okay.
But anyway, all right. With her going independent, do we lose the 51?
No.
No?
And so think about it this way, Gina. This is real easy. So Senator Bernie Sanders is an independent, and Senator Angus King is also an independent, and now Sinema is an independent. So there are 3 independents in the Democratic caucus. Right.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I did not realize that. Okay, I knew Bernie was.
Yes, and Angus King is also from Maine.
Okay, yes. Oh, God, yeah.
Right.
I like listening.
But as long as they agree to caucus with, this is the Senate rules. These are the stupid, unbelievably parliamentarian, crazy book of rules. As long as they caucus with the Democrats, then the Democrats can maintain the majority.
Okay, which means they can do the committee and get subpoenas.
Yeah, they don't need power sharing. The committees are not going to be split evenly anymore. There will be a majority of Democrats on all the committees in the Senate. The Democrats will chair all the committees in the Senate. They can get a subpoena without conferring with or getting consent from the Republicans. They can, there's a lot of things that you get with a flat-out majority with a 51 versus a 50-50. So, yeah. But no, it's not going to, in fact, she was asked that question this morning.
Ever since Raphael Warnock, Senator Warnock, was reelected earlier this week, the balance of power right now is 51 Democrats, or 51 votes for the Democratic Party. That includes 2 independents, Angus King of Maine and Bernie Sanders of Vermont. But that's 51-49. What you're doing today doesn't change that? It's still basically going to be 51-49?
Well, I know you have to ask that question, Jake, but that's kind of a DC thing to worry about. What I'm really focused on is just making sure that I'm doing what I think comports with my values and the values of Arizonans. So when I come to work each day, it'll be the same. I'm going to still come to work and hopefully serve on the same committees I've been serving on and continue to work well with my colleagues of both political parties. And I'm not really spending much time worrying about what the mechanics look like for Washington, D.C. And to be honest, Jake, I don't think anyone in Arizona is caring about that either.
So let me show you why she lied to your face. Obviously, we just had a caller from Tennessee, not even anywhere near Arizona, who is very concerned about who actually has the majority after this long-fought battle of the 2022 midterms. So that's number one. Yes, people do care, Kyrsten, whatever the hell your name is. Number two, it does matter because if we need to get a subpoena, if we need to, have legislation introduced out of a committee, if we need to, hold a hearing, it matters who has the majority. It matters. So it's not a DC thing. And this idea that she works for Arizonans is a joke. 90% of all the money she collects for her own benefit comes from outside Arizona. She's not concerned with the lives of Arizonans. Now, all that you need to understand about who gets the majority is the caucus, right? If you have 51 senators who are going to vote for the Democrats to have the majority of the votes, right, when they set the Senate rules, if you have 51 votes to do that, then that's the way the Senate is set up. So what she's saying there is that she'll vote with the Democrats to set up the new Senate rules that recognize that the Democrats have a 51 vote majority. That's what she's saying. And the only reason why she became an independent is obviously she doesn't want to be primaried by a Democrat. She wants to somehow insert herself into an election as a spoiler candidate. She wants to be a third-party candidate. And she will peel votes off from the Democratic nominee. And the most logical conclusion to that kind of a scenario is Senator Kari Lake. Karen in California.
No, I'm from Oklahoma.
Oh, hi.
Hi. Listen, I've been kind of dragging my feet about making another donation, but when you came out and said that the Supreme Court did what they did, my next step was to call and donate. Okay?
Oh, that's wonderful.
I can say that I'm not surprised. But
you're shocked.
More shocked.
Yeah,
I'm shocked that it came out. Okay.
Yeah.
The thing about it is, what are we going to do about it? We're going to have an investigation. We're going to have a commission. We're going to have a committee. Then we got to go to court, and it'll be 5 years before we get them out.
Well, you know what?
If we can get them out.
What the purpose of the hearing yesterday was, for Congress to have a hearing, they have to have what they call a legislative purpose, right? Even the January 6th committee, they had to have a legislative purpose. So the legislative purpose here is to introduce ethics rules for the Supreme Court justices. Because right now, Karen, there are no ethics rules that apply to Supreme Court justices, so there won't be any. There won't be any investigation. There won't be.
Do you think they'd ever abide by them?
Well, the only way that you can actually enforce ethics rules is if you have them. Number one, we do enforce them against other judges across the federal system, across the state system. And so until and unless we have them for the Supreme Court justices, we don't know if they would abide by them. But right now, we can't even have an investigation because they didn't break any laws. They didn't do anything that's illegal.
Oh, well, it should be.
Right.
This whole country has turned into greed and corruption.
Yeah.
And I'm sick and tired of it. I'm sick and tired of it.
I hear you.
These Republicans, they want to keep us poor, sick, dumb, and
at each other's throats.
And against each other.
Yes.
And I try not to be that way. I just try to avoid people that think like Donald Trump does.
Well, that's no way to live. Not in the freest, best country on the planet. You can't just, relax, sit back, and enjoy the destruction of America. You have to understand what it is that's going on, how it should be illegal to give money to politicians. It's called bribery in any other system. The Supreme Court is now in on the avarice. They're now in on the treachery. They're now in on, viewing us as an inconvenience to be sidelined in the form of, voting, protesting. Listen, everybody, thank you very much for helping us reach our goal today. I'm sure we did. I'll check, I'll probably thank you on Monday, but please keep dialing.